The content of this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended as, nor should it be considered a substitute for professional medical advice.
Sweaty and pissed. Menopause makes me sweaty and pissed.
Welcome to Sweaty and Pissed, Menopause and More. I'm Karen Nickell, nurse practitioner. The next episode is the first of a two-part conversation that Leanne and I had with artist and media personality Stephen Brown, who created the artwork for our Sweaty and Pissed podcast. We hope you enjoy getting to know him.
Hello, everyone.
Hey!
Welcome to Sweaty and Pissed, Menopause and More. I'm Leanne Morgan, comedian and menopausal mess. And this is the brilliant
Karen Nickell, nurse practitioner. And we are excited to have a guest with us today. And I'm going to introduce him. But I first want to find out how your Mother's Day was, Leanne.
Good. I got to be with my little mama and I took care of her. I was with them all weekend. Yeah, and we made the living room a spa, and my all the granddaughters were there, and they did a face mask on her, and I blew her hair out, and Tess did a dermaplane on her, and we did her feet, and we had her propped up, and we cooked and did, and yeah, so it was sweet that we got to do that for her.
I wish I could have crashed that party.
My Mother's Day. Is a big fight over whether I should have black Adirondack chairs outside or brown. And I don't know. And our guest, I could use him up, honey, and I want him to do everything in my life because he's so talented and fabulous. And okay, and this guest we have, I met years ago at our local television station because I'm the only comedian in Knoxville that's not, on dope. And so they would have me come and just do a little whatever. And I had 3 little children, and they would push those little children down the stairs and put them on a treadmill and give them Dr. Pepper and popcorn at the WBIR station so that they would leave us alone and not get on stage because all 3 of my kids were hams. And I met our guest. And do you want to introduce him? Because you are very, very, very close to him.
Well, no. Well, I do want to say that just sort of give a little background on Stephen. He is from a small town here in Tennessee and created this magical company called Glitterville because he loves holidays and wanted to have every day be a holiday. And so he makes that so for so many people in this world. It's fantastic. And he has spread his philosophy through being on Craft Wars on TLC and holding craft workshops. And he usually, I think he appears regularly on TV, local TV, showing craft things that he can do. So and then he started out as a costume designer for stage and film and television. And that's how I met him, was through the opera world.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. And so his philosophy of life and the magic that he brings into people's lives have made him so popular all around the world. He became huge in doing home decor for people, and now he has a whole home decor line that is carried in stores like Anthropologie and Neiman Marcus and Selfridges of London. So he's all over the place. So here I have 2 famous people, and then the nurse practitioner who's doing pap smears all day. So what a mix. But we are, and we have talked about this gentleman almost every episode because he did our artwork for our podcast. He was generous enough to do that for us. And this is the famous and wonderful Stephen Brown of Glitterville.
Yay!
We're so happy to have you here, Stephen.
Thank you too for having me. I love you both.
Oh, you doll. Look at his teeth.
He is adorable.
Oh, and Stephen and I met again at Paula Dean when she had her, do you remember that, Stephen?
I do.
At Paula's grand opening. So you know Brandon too, because Brandon's also tells me that I have got to get something in here and that I'm an embarrassment.
I'm sure he does.
Oh, he's so outdone with me. But okay, so we met at Paula Dean's restaurant grand opening, and I just clung to you. Do you remember that? I just stood and clung to you, and I wanted to be your friend. And you had that little dolly with you.
It's true. I was carrying a chicken. I think they had asked me to do a project, and I made a crown that said Butter Queen, and then you were next. It was that kind of day.
Oh my gosh, honey, I'm shocked somebody didn't ask me to sweep the floor. I've opened for Paula for years, and I haven't in a long time, but years ago I did, and she was going to play my mother on my sitcom deal with ABC and Warner Brothers that didn't make it.
Oh,
and put me into a deep depression. Yeah, but anyway, okay,
TV will do that to you.
Yes, they do in Hollywood.
You know what? I've spent my whole life trying to manage this whole TV thing and a deal here and a deal there. And, oh, it's going to work. No, it's not. But you know what? Now we're all on Zoom TV.
Yes, honey.
And even people on TV is shooting it on Zoom TV in their basement. So here we all are.
Yes, true, my darling. Okay, so, and Karen, I'm sorry. I didn't ask you about your Mother's Day. Did you have a nice Mother's Day? I'm sorry. I'm so self-involved. Did you have a good Mother's Day?
I had a lovely Mother's Day. Forrest came over and we were social distancing and had a lovely meal together, and he gave me a beautiful handmade Mother's Day card with lovely sentiment. So it was very special.
Oh, Forrest.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good, my darling. Okay. So you know all that is going on with Stephen. I mean, is there enough time to talk about it?
Well,
what all he's done?
Probably not, but we're gonna have to do the abridged version. But Stephen, do tell us what you're up to now.
Well,
during COVID.
Like everybody else, we're all quarantined. And unfortunately, the first couple of days of quarantine were great because I was at my house and I'm not there very often. So I was laying back and watching everything on Netflix and having a good time. And then Brian, who's here at Glitterville with me, he said, you know what? I think, because we also have a loft here at the studio, he said, I don't think that quarantining at home is going to be good for the business or you. So I think we need to go to the studio. So I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll go there a day and then we'll both go home a day and it'll work like that. No, we've been at this studio practically since the quarantine began. So everybody else is looking real rested, and I feel like I'm looking tired because we have worked every single day of the quarantine.
You have, but praise God, honey, that you've got a lot going on. I mean, really, other people, everything's just stopped.
No, that's the good
wonderful
part. That we've been really busy, and it's sort of a different world now. And one of the things that I had never done, and I know Leanne, I know you've done a lot of them, but Instagram Live was something I never did before the quarantine. And we did one, and it was really successful, and everybody loved it. And then you get addicted to it because it is that TV you can't get on. So I started doing those, and now, I've met so many Glitterville followers that are all around the world. And, so even though we're by ourselves in some ways, we've opened ourselves up to the whole world, and we're with more people. I don't see that many people on a daily basis anyway. So, and I'm an indoor child, so, that part's fine.
Well, how can you, because you're doing some craft workshops is it over Instagram you're doing the craft workshops with people?
Well, currently, in the store, which opened in September, we started opening up some craft classes that immediately would sell out and fill up immediately. And it was great. And we had one of those planned at the very beginning of the virus. And so that one canceled. And I started doing them on Instagram Live. And, again, it's been great. You show people how to make things, how to do things. They ask you questions. It's a good time for all.
That's great. And your Instagram is Glitterville, right?
Yes. If you were more active on Instagram, you might know that.
I do. You're one of the 4 people I follow.
Yeah, she's doing pap smears, Stephen. She's doing terrible. She's having to take IUDs out of old, crusty women like me. God love her. Okay, so Stephen, all right, so can we drop her name? Can we drop Oprah's name?
I think you have.
Let's talk about Oprah, sister.
Well, she's the queen of everything. We all know that. And, my philosophy is always, never rule out anything in your life and never, people tell me I can't do things, and I probably can't, but I'll convince you that I can and roll on to the next one. And, when the Oprah thing came about, Adam Glassman, who's a good friend of mine, who is Oprah's creative director, he came into our showroom in Atlanta years ago. And I remember the day he came in. I have a big candy counter, which I stand in the middle of. And so the people are around, but I'm in the center of this big island. And he came in and he said, "Excuse me, but da-da-da-da-da-da." And I looked up, but I just said yes. And I put my head back down and I kept working. And then he said something about a magazine, and I said yes. And then he said something about TV and wanting to work with you. And I was still only, I don't know what I was doing, but it must have been important. And then he said to me, "I'm the creative director for Oprah, and we'd like to do a project with you." And I said, "Oh, wow." And I got really excited. And he said, "Well, I'll give you a call when we have something." And I said, "Okay." And that was on a Thursday. Well, the reception at that time was terrible in this building in Atlanta. So I didn't get any more calls on my phone or didn't answer the voicemails or whatever it was until we left the market on Tuesday, the following Tuesday. And when I looked at that and answered it, it was actually him, and he had called that day and wanted to work on a project. And I was like, oh no, now they think I'm not answering them. And it's Tuesday, from Thursday to Tuesday. So I called back as soon as we got home, and he didn't answer. So I was like, oh, now they think I'm playing hard to get. Well, Dolly was a mess. Dolly the chicken was a mess. So I took her back to, and this studio that we used to have, it was a dark place. There was one window at the very front of the building. And I'm back here in a dark hole washing a chicken in the sink, and my phone rings. So I pick up the phone, and I'm like, "Hello?" And he said, "Hello, this is Adam Glassman." And he's very dignified. He does the Oscars and all those things. "Stephen," I'm like, "You know what? Can I call you back? Because I'm washing my chicken right now." Well, needless to say, they had never had that kind of response before. But long story shorter, I did that project, and we all fell in love, and we have been working together all these years later. And anytime you get involved with Oprah, it's a quality, fun project that usually has some wacky twist, sometimes wackier than you think, like a few years ago when we got trapped on the glacier for 3 nights or 3 days and 3 nights with Oprah in Alaska on a glacier, rescued by helicopters on the 3rd night. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, he slept in a dog sled.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, we went on this this photo shoot, and I only know about the things that are immediate to me. I know about glue. I know about glitter. I fake a lot of other things. And one of them, and I don't know where anything is in the country practically. Brian's always saying, your geography has got to improve. But Alaska I'd never thought about Alaska. I'd never been there. So I didn't have a lot of knowledge about glaciers. So when they said we were going to get on a glacier, I imagined like Chilly Willy gets on a glacier where one piece of ice floats over to the other piece of ice, and then there you are. But that wasn't the case. We got on a helicopter, flew to the top of this glacier that tourists can't even go to. It was so remote. And the weather changed. And when the weather changed, a man came over to me and he said, excuse me, I just need you to get the message over to the people who need to know that you're about to be trapped because the weather is changing. So I go over to my friend Adam and I said, Adam, the weather's changing. They said we're about to be trapped. He just looked at me and put a package on top of his head and said, what do you do? The next thing you knew, there we were. So no one panicked. We all thought, we'll be out of here by nighttime. But actually it was 3 days and nights and pouring down rain and snow. And the only thing on a glacier is you, bears, and crows. And those crows will hit you about waist high. So yeah. It was an adventure.
What do you mean the crows hit you about waist high? They're that big or they fly into your waist? What are you saying to me?
Well, you do. Everything looks like food on a glacier. So luckily, the minute I heard we were trapped, and I'm a vegetarian lifelong, so you immediately think about yourself. And I knew that craft services had a box. That's all it was because you're on a glacier. And it was full of fig Newtons. So I went and got all those fig Newtons and I put them in my bag. Well, about one day into this, I'm like, my stomach is so torn up and I have to go to the bathroom, and that wasn't easy.
Murder.
So it wasn't the best thing to have a total diet of fig Newtons. I'm sure Karen Nickell knows that. But when we were all rescued, we all have a tremendous story that no one else has. We left there and went on a cruise with Oprah, and that had its own adventures. And, so Oprah is great. And
Is she, Stephen? Is Oprah sweet?
she is. She's very sweet. She's, she runs a company that truly has the views that she offers to people. There's no one amongst them that's, everybody is there for a reason and because they're good at what they do. And, and O Magazine is led by Adam Glassman, who's fabulous in every way. And it's a quality experience that I'm so thankful that I hooked up with them so many years ago. And it's been great for the Glitterville brand because many of the items are Oprah's favorite things. And that's a coveted list to get on. So here we are today.
Oh my gosh, Stephen, when you were a baby, when you were a little bitty boy, did you envision this? Did you think, I want to be in the public eye? Did you think, I want to be a engineer? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? I'm sure you're a dreamer. You've got to be a dreamer because look at you. All right, but did you see this coming, my darling?
Well, anyone who knows me knows that I don't definitely go towards anything with good sense, maybe. I always hope for the best. I knew from the get-go, that things were, that I wanted to do something that was not where I was from. Because the thing that disturbed me most when I was little is I would look around and I would see people and I would be like, this is their lives every single day. This is their lives. They go to work and they go home, and that's fine. Some of them were perfectly happy with it, but I always say, my Nana always told me that God intended for me to be born somewhere sparkly and beautiful like Hollywood, but instead he dropped me in Rockwood at the foot of a big dark mountain where the shadow, if you let it, could take you over. And it was just something that I knew from the very get-go. While it's a charming place and the people are sweet, I knew that for me, I wanted something that was bigger than that. And I'll never forget the Christmas pageant in second grade. they told us they were going to cast it. And I was so excited. And I can remember laying in my bed thinking, I'm going to be Santa Claus in this Christmas play. And when the day came, they read out everybody's names. And when they did, I was not Santa Claus. They gave it to the child who had a big round belly, who was not even interested in this play. But they said, he will be Santa Claus. And when I got the paper that told me what I was going to be, it said a dancing present. And when I graduated from high school, my second grade teacher sent me a note that I had written her after that play in second grade. And it was simply, I do not intend to be a box my entire life. And and I have the picture of me in that second grade pageant of, I remember going behind the IGA and getting out of the dumpster a giant box that we took home. We cut 2 holes in it, gift wrapped it, and they put a bow on my head. And so I think from second grade, I knew I didn't want to be a box. And you know, or like little Edie Beale says, how am I going to get out of here?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Stephen, then you and I have a similar story because I'm from a town of 500 people in Middle Tennessee that is a farming community, a rural farming, precious. And I entered myself into a talent contest when I was 5 at the 4th of July community picnic. And my sister is very introverted and shy. And she said, we can't let this happen. I'm going to have diarrhea if she's in this talent contest. And she took me off the list. And she's apologized to me about every 3 months since. And I've said that.
As she should, technically.
Well, but you know, Stephen, you know what my act was going to be? I had a little record player that when you close it, it played. And I was going to, you remember that Sonny and Cher, Cherokee Nation, Cherokee Tribe. I can't remember what the.
Oddly enough, we turned that off right before this podcast.
Yes. What?
We were playing the Cher
Show,
which was a fabulous show on Broadway last year. I thought it would run forever, and it closed pretty quickly because it was an expensive show to do, and they knew that it would tour well. So now I play that all the time. So,
oh, my darling.
See?
Well, I was going to do a very, very, very politically incorrect Native American dance to that song. And back then, nobody would have cared. But anyway, I don't think I was really ready. And so I look back on, you know, and then I went to UT. I was in speech and drama in high school. And my high school class had 42 people in it. And one of the guys went on to Juilliard and is an actor and has been on network television and in movies. And darling, his daddy was my preacher, honey. I made out with him. Okay. And then there was 4 boys that were in a country music band and went pretty far at the time. Anyway, we had all these fun, eclectic people. But I got to UT and I thought I just didn't have the confidence I thought, should I go into theater? And I thought I was scared of those women with tight buns on at UT. And and then I ended up majoring in something completely different. It was just not my time. And so I look back on my life, and I got to say this to you, my angel. If you had been raised in Hollywood, you'd probably be some butthole that nobody would want to fool with, and you wouldn't have this wonderful sensibility and this precious spirit that you have. And you got that from Rockwood, Tennessee. Do you hear what I'm saying?
No, it's completely true.
You know?
And, you know, the only thing for me is, you know, I never want people who are from small places to have, you know, I eventually said, when I was a senior, they decided, I don't know how it works at other schools because I didn't go to a private school or a big city school or anything else. But in a small town in Tennessee, when it's time to graduate, they call you into the guidance counselor's office. And that guidance counselor has looked at all your records and he's known you your entire life, supposedly. And at this time, he's going to tell you what you should do with your life. So again, you know, I was thinking about what's he going to tell me? Oh, it's probably going to be film star or something fun and exciting is what I thought.
Yes.
So I
honey,
go
yes.
in and I sit down in the guidance counselor's office, and and I didn't know him that well because I was pretty quiet during school. Not quiet, but yeah, I didn't bother people. So I sat there, and when he turned around, he said to me, "Stephen, I think that your life path should be you should work at the post office." I said, "The post office? The Rockwood post office?" He said, "Yes, sir." And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, "Unless they're sorting Elizabeth Taylor's fan mail, I will not be doing that." And it was on that day that I think I coined the phrase for myself. I will no longer be selling my big dreams to small people. And I think that's something you have to remember for yourself is, everybody deters you in some way,
Yes.
and
yes.
you can't listen to that. I mean, I don't think that's even good mental health. Now, granted, my mental health probably not great either, but you're not telling me I can't do something if I want to. And, that all becomes, something that you have to have the self-esteem. And just like you're saying there, you might not have had that at UT, but look at what self-esteem you have now. So, I think we do all have our
Yes.
time. So,
Yes. And I, later after 3 babies started doing comedy in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, which is nutso. But you know what? It worked out.
you needed
And I
those
just look
babies
at
for
you.
content, though.
Yes, I did, honey. Because if I'd have started comedy at 20 when I was at UT, I would have talked about my thighs. I would have talked about Annie Lennox. I would have talked about, honey, stupid mess. So you're right. I did not have it. I did not have what I really wanted to say. I didn't know what I wanted to say until, but I do think it's sweet when somebody comes from a small town and look at what you've done. It's unbelievable. How many children in Rockwood and all over rural Tennessee can you inspire? And I hope that you get opportunities to speak to children and tell them you can do anything. There's, in the state of Tennessee, we have admirals and NASA scientists and, doctors and people that have done all kinds of things. You think about the entertainment industry, Elvis.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's so funny how many movies and projects that I've actually worked on, and because I was a costume designer for television and film before Glitterville started, and I remember working on I designed a movie with Mariah Carey, and we were in Nova Scotia for like 6 months, and it hit me one day when someone said, "Where are you from?" And because they think I got an accent, I said, "I'm from Tennessee," and they just looked at me and said, "Why?" And I thought, why? The one thing that we don't have any control over is where and who we're born to. Those are things that you don't have any control over. And even though I lived in New York City, and that was where I was from, designing the movie and everything, they're just like, why would you be from Tennessee? And that was before a lot of celebrities lived in Tennessee, because now you have.
Oh, yeah, honey. Yeah, I don't know where that stupid person is right now.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, Stephen, that this morning, through all the COVID, through all this nightmare, there are blessings that come out of it. And Reese Witherspoon started following me and started direct messaging me. And she goes, your children, your girls don't have your accent. And I said, well, I've raised them in larger cities and I put them in private school and I'm from Adams. And, she was raised in Nashville. And she said, and I said, but my son really has my accent. And Karen, you'd probably say that, wouldn't you? That Charlie talks more like me. And their daddy's from Morristown, Tennessee, and he doesn't have really an accent, certainly something not like mine. And she said, you tell your son to use that. Don't get rid of that. She said that your accent is delightful and you keep talking to people and you keep making people feel good during the COVID. And I thought, which I feel that. I'm not ashamed of, this is who I am. I'm 54 years old, honey. I'm too tired to change it if I'd wanted to, but I don't want to. I think it makes me authentic and it makes you authentic. My darling, it makes you who you are.
Well, and sometimes you have to turn it on or turn it off a little bit, depending on where you are. But, it's things like I remember my first day in New York City. When I finally moved to New York, it was sort of by hook and by crook, because I went to UT also in the theater department. And one spring, I went to New York City and decided that I would take my resume and just show people and see if I could get a job there. And if I could, then I would later figure out how I would move there. So what I did was I went to one Broadway house that was very famous for making costumes. And I went through the interview process with the woman, and I told her at the end, she said, "You can start on Monday." And I said, "Oh, I don't live here. I just wanted to see if I could get a job if I did." She picked up a large pink stapler about this big and threw it at the wall, which hit right over my head behind me. I was like, dang, these people, we're not in Kansas anymore. So I left there, and I went to many, many different ones, but the one I ended up at was a costume shop for television and film, and the soap operas. And I have been obsessed with As the World Turns my entire life. There was nothing better than a soap opera. Still isn't today. Love them like my family. So I went, and they said, "You can start on Monday." And I said, "Oh, well, I don't actually live here, but if you get me an apartment, I'll move." And they said, "We don't get people apartments, but thank you very much." On my way out the door, I said, "I'll call you back." So I went home. And on Monday of the next week, that was on a Friday, on Monday, I picked up the phone and I called New York City and I said, "Hey, this is Stephen from Tennessee. Have you found my apartment yet?" And they said, "We don't find people apartments." Click. So on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I did the same thing every day. On Friday, they said, "We have found your apartment. Be here on Monday." So I went there on the following Monday, and on my this is a long story to get to my point, but on that Monday, when I went there, my very first day of work, I came in and, I was Southern and I was smiling and I was talking, and the first person who came in to deal with me said, "Honey, I'm going to give you a tip. You need to stop smiling because people here are going to think you're stupid." And I was like, oh my goodness. So, it was at that time that I struggled with, do you keep the accent? Do you try to be yourself? Do you continue to smile, or do you do like everyone else in New York and just, be very reserved?
Look PO'd.
But you know what? When you're from the South, you can't hide it for long. You can pretend that you are, but, we can't hide it. So even if I talk better sometime, it doesn't last.
Thanks for joining us for the first part of our conversation with Stephen Brown. Please tune in for part 2 next week, when Leanne and Stephen discuss the benefits and woes of going on a yeast-free diet per my recommendation. Be safe and stay well, and see you next week.
Sweat